January 13, 2006. The polished marble floors of a quiet suburban bank in Buenos Aires are suddenly transformed into a stage of fear. Customers and employees lie face down, trembling, as masked men stand over them, pistols aimed at their heads. Every breath feels dangerous. One wrong move, one misunderstood gesture, and the scene could spiral into violence. To the outside world, it looks like a classic hostage crisis, volatile, unpredictable, and on the verge of catastrophe. But something about this situation is strange. The leader of the gunmen makes an unusual demand. Not money. Not a helicopter. Not safe passage. He asks for pizza. Police negotiators, listening through crackling radios, exchange confused glances. Pizza? In the middle of a high-stakes siege? It sounds absurd, almost laughable. But what they don't realize is that this absurdity is deliberate. Every second they spend trying to understand the bizarre request is a second the real crime continues undisturbed. Because beneath the bank, hidden from sight, another team is already at work. While officers flood the streets and surround the building, convinced all the action is happening above ground, 3 men are deep underground, inside a network of storm drains. They have already breached the vault floor. Working quickly and methodically, they smash open safe deposit boxes and fill duffel bags with cash, gold, and jewels. Millions of dollars worth of untraceable wealth is being carried away, right under the noses of hundreds of police officers. The hostage crisis is nothing more than a performance. A distraction. A carefully scripted illusion. Within just over 2 hours, the thieves will vanish completely from a building encircled by law enforcement. They will leave behind confused hostages, embarrassed authorities, and a handwritten message that reads, "Without weapons or grudges, it's just money, not love." The country will soon call them heroes. But behind the brilliance of the plan lies a fragile truth. Even the most perfect crime can unravel from within. This is the story of how 6 men outwitted an entire nation, and how their masterpiece ultimately collapsed. The idea began years earlier, in December 2003. Fernando Araujo, an artist struggling to make ends meet, sat alone in his apartment, surrounded by newspaper clippings. One story in particular captured his imagination. A failed bank siege in 1999 that ended in tragedy when police stormed the building and killed hostages on live television. Most people saw chaos and failure in those images. Araujo saw something else entirely. Possibility. He began sketching a concept, almost like writing a screenplay. What if a robbery didn't rely on violence or escape routes through the front door? What if the robbers could disappear entirely from a locked-down building? What if the crime itself was an illusion? He shared his idea with his old friend Sebastián García Bolster, a skilled mechanic and engineer. Bolster wasn't just good with machines. He was someone who could build almost anything. And he had his own reasons for listening. His family had lost their savings during Argentina's devastating financial collapse in 2001. The banks had failed people like him. The system had failed. So when Araujo proposed robbing a bank, not with brute force, but with ingenuity, Bolster didn't dismiss it. He leaned in. The target was Banco Río in Acasuso, a wealthy suburb where clients stored fortunes in safe deposit boxes. After the economic crisis, many people no longer trusted banks with their money in accounts. Instead, they filled private boxes with cash, gold, and valuables, assets that couldn't be easily traced. Araujo's plan was deceptively simple. 2 teams. One above ground, staging a hostage crisis to draw attention, control the narrative, and occupy the police. One below ground, entering through storm drains to access the vault and quietly remove its contents. No violence. No casualties. Just misdirection on a massive scale. But simplicity on paper didn't mean ease in execution. The tunnel alone would require drilling through reinforced concrete, navigating sewage systems, and avoiding detection for months. It was a task that demanded precision, patience, and nerves of steel. Bolster accepted the challenge. As the plan developed, they began assembling a team. They needed experience, discipline, people who could handle pressure without panic. One of the first recruits was Ruben Beto de la Torre, a seasoned bank robber with years of experience. He understood how police responded, how hostages behaved, and how quickly situations could escalate. He agreed to join, but brought along his own associate, Luis Mario Vitet, known as the Uruguayan. Vitet was different. He had a commanding presence, a calm intensity that could control a room without firing a single shot. He specialized in psychological dominance, making people obey not through violence, but through fear and authority. He would become the face of the operation. More members joined, each bringing unique skills. Surveillance experts studied the bank's routines. A getaway driver mapped escape routes. Every detail was analyzed: shift changes, security patterns, even the habits of individual employees. They rehearsed relentlessly. This wasn't just a robbery. It was a performance. Every line of dialogue, every movement, every decision was scripted. They practiced responses to every possible scenario: early police intervention, medical emergencies, unexpected variables. Timing was everything. The underground team needed exactly 2 hours and 7 minutes to complete their work. Not a second less. Not a second more. Above ground, the hostage drama had to last precisely that long. For months, Bolster worked in the tunnels. Night after night, he descended into darkness, carrying tools through foul-smelling water and navigating narrow concrete passages. He measured distances, reinforced walls, and slowly carved a path toward the vault. It was dangerous work. Flooding, toxic gases, and structural instability were constant threats. One mistake could mean collapse, or worse. But he persisted. Finally, after weeks of effort, he broke through the last layer of concrete and reached the vault floor. The opening was small, hidden, and perfectly placed. The path was ready. On January 13, 2006, the plan was set in motion. At exactly 12:28 p.m., the underground team entered the storm drains. Minutes later, the front team walked into the bank. Within seconds, the transformation was complete. Customers were ordered to the floor. Doors were locked. Control was established with astonishing speed. Outside, alarms were triggered. Police began to arrive. Inside, the performance began. Vitet spoke calmly, reassuringly even, presenting the robbers as rational men who didn't want violence. Hostages were released periodically to build trust and delay aggressive action. And then came the pizza demand. It worked perfectly. Authorities hesitated, debated, approved. Time passed. Meanwhile, below ground, the vault was being emptied. Safe deposit boxes were smashed open one by one. Some contained sentimental items, photos, letters, which were left untouched. Others held immense wealth: cash, gold coins, diamonds. The thieves took only what mattered. By mid-afternoon, they had collected nearly $19 million. Then came the final act. The underground team exited through the tunnel, navigating the sewage system until they reached a distant manhole. A van waited nearby. They emerged, loaded the bags, and drove away. At the same time, the front team misled police into believing they were about to surrender. Instead, they vanished through the same hidden route. By the time authorities stormed the bank hours later, it was empty. No robbers. No clues. Just confused hostages and a mocking note. The country was stunned. It was called the heist of the century. People were fascinated, not outraged. Many even admired the thieves. In a nation still scarred by financial collapse, the robbery felt like a symbolic act of revenge against the system. The robbers became legends. For weeks, police found nothing. No fingerprints. No DNA. No suspects. It seemed like the perfect crime. Until one person changed everything. Alicia Dulio was the wife of one of the robbers. At first, she only suspected something. Then she found money, hidden in walls, under floors, inside household fixtures. Large amounts. Too large to ignore. When she discovered her husband's betrayal, his plans to leave her for another woman, the situation shifted from suspicion to anger. And anger turned into action. She went to the police. She revealed names, details, conversations she had overheard. It was enough. Within weeks, authorities arrested the entire crew. The public reaction was unexpected. Instead of celebration, there was disappointment. Many people had wanted the robbers to escape. Even in court, the thieves maintained their composure. They didn't deny their actions, but they reframed them. Not as crime, but as art. A carefully executed illusion. And in many ways they were right. Because despite their capture, much of the stolen money was never recovered. Millions simply vanished. In the end, the heist succeeded and failed. It succeeded as a masterpiece of planning, psychology, and execution. It failed because of something far simpler. Human relationships. Trust. Betrayal. The very elements no plan can fully control. The men who outsmarted hundreds of police officers were ultimately undone by something far more personal. A broken marriage. A wounded partner. A decision made in anger. And just like that, the illusion collapsed. But the legend remains. A robbery carried out with toy guns and pizza. A crime that became a story. And a reminder that sometimes, the greatest tricks aren't about what you see, but what you never notice at all.